in the hip hop genre, right? Most of the artists that died were murdered. The other half died from drugs, and it just seems that artists are dying younger and younger, man. I just don't get it. The crazy part is hip hop is the #1 selling genre of music. Billions of dollars. Generating billions of dollars. And I said it before in another video. Rapper Lil Boosie said it's a fact that most rappers die in their own city. One rapper who was on their way to stardom, something special, man. He was something special. His name was Lil Snupe. Lil Snupe was special, man. Looking at his interviews, he was always giving advice to up and coming artists, stay focused on their craft, giving good advice to them. And Lil Snupe, he could rap for hours, freestyle rap at that, and not even mess up. There's not a lot of rappers that can do that. And that's how he got the name, the Freestyle King, because he go right off the top of the dome, right off the top of the head. Even though he was from the South, but his rhyme flow, it sounded like an East Coast rapper to me. DJ Khaled used to call him the Future. Rick Ross, Meek Mill, and the Dream Chasers. If Lil Snupe was still around, they would have been unstoppable, man. But his death, it's a lot of confusion trying to solve that case. You know what? Let's get into the story, man. Lil Snupe was born on June 13th, 1995 in Jonesboro, Louisiana. Now, growing up, he was the only child to his parents who were very young when they had him. And his godmother gave him the nickname Snoop because his father's nickname was Charlie Brown. Now, by the time he turned 4 years old, his father ended up incarcerated, which left his mother to raise him all by herself. Around the age of 5, Lil Snupe had a passion for music, and he was always telling his mother that he wanted to be a rapper. At that age, he was telling his mama he wanted to be a rapper. Around the age of 8 years old, him and his mother had moved to Dallas, Texas, and Lil Snupe hooked up with some guys who put him in a professional studio. At 8 years old, that's how nice he was at rapping. But see, Snoop kept getting in trouble in school and stuff, and sometimes he wouldn't come home, and that's when his mom stopped him from going to the studio. I mean, growing up, he had a pretty rough life growing up, and his mom told him if he don't straighten up, he was going to lose his dream of becoming a rap star. And that's when Snoop got his act together and began promoting his freestyles on the internet to build a fan base. He started posting songs to YouTube, hoping to get discovered. Now, his mother, she was his biggest fan and really believed in him. And she really believed he was going to be the next star. And that's when she introduced him to a guy named Senile, who had a recording studio in the neighborhood, so he could help work on Lil Snoop's mixtape demo, in which he called 16 and Running. Now, after completing his first mixtape, he wanted to give a copy to Meek Mill, who was coming into town to perform at Grambling University homecoming. Because see, his two favorite rappers were Lil Boosie and Meek Mill, which was perfect for him. Now, after the show, Lil Snoop knocked on Meek Mill's van window and gave Meek his demo, and Meek actually listened to it and loved the music so much that 20 minutes later, he ended up calling Lil Snoop and began tweeting his music on Twitter and quoting some of his rap lines. After seeing that, Lil Snoop convinced his mother to let him go to Philly, and he traveled 36 hours on the Greyhound bus to go to meet with Meek Mill. Now once he got to Philly, he was hanging with Meek Mill, and Meek Mill put him to the test and had him in a rap battle with a rapper named Retro that was signed to wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, who played for the Philadelphia Eagles at the time. I think the bet was for like $10,000. I think they battled at T.I.'s album release party. Now, after winning the battle, that video went viral and got millions of views, which made everybody want to know who Lil Snupe was, and his name began to buzz in the industry. After that, Meek Mill made it official and signed him to his label called Dream Chasers Records. Around that time, Meek had signed Jordan, Louis V. Gutter, and a female rapper named Lee Mason. After signing the Dream Chasers, he began working on his mixtape called RNIC, which stood for Real Nigga in Charge. And on that mixtape, he worked with some known rappers like Trader Truth, DJ Khaled, and Currency. Now, as soon as he released that mixtape, the fans loved it, and he started to build a fan base and a following, especially on the social media platforms. He was grinding, man. He was working, he was doing a lot of interviews and always freestyling. He also did a song on DJ Mustard's Catch Up mixtape and on MMG's Self-Made 3 album. I mean, the boy was on fire, and Meek Mill used to have him come on stage and freestyle off the top of his head about any topic, and he would have the crowd going crazy. In an interview with MTV, Meek Mill said Lil Snupe was spitting so much pain. He's from the South with a flow like an East Coast guy. And Meek Mill really loved Lil Snupe, man. He was trying to really change his life, get him out them streets. But on June 20th, 2013, just 7 days after he turned 18 years old, and 2 months after releasing his mixtape, Lil Snupe was shot and killed in Winfield, Louisiana. Now, the story goes around about 4 o'clock in the morning, Lil Snupe and a guy named Tony Holden was playing the basketball video game NBA 2K. But they put money up and was betting on the game. I mean, some say it was over $100 dice game too, but I don't know. But anyway, now, after Lil Snupe won, things got out of hand and they ended up getting into an argument. Next thing you know, Tony Holden pulls out the gun, shoots Lil Snupe twice in the chest, and robbed him. Days later, Tony Holden turned himself in and was charged with first-degree murder, armed robbery, and an illegal possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Now check this. This is the crazy part though. In the following month, police arrested Lil Snupe's friend, Edric Stewart, who went by the name Lil E, who was a witness and an alleged accomplice to Snoop's murder. They ended up charging him with manslaughter, and this is Snoop's boy. Now, after they did an autopsy on Lil Snupe, they found out that the gun Tony Holden and Lil E turned in did not have the same bullet that killed Lil Snupe. In an interview on YouTube, Lil E, he did an interview and maintained his innocence and claimed he was trying to help Snoop that night. And the manslaughter charge against him were dropped. Instead, they charged him with illegally discharging a weapon or something like that. So he was never charged, but he was there though. Lil Snoop's mother, who goes by the name Mama Snoop, still believes Lil E is the killer. She said he's like Bishop in the movie Juice. He betrayed Lil Snoop. She said after Snoop was killed, Lil E jumped in the truck and took off and left him. In an interview she did with Double XL, she also stated that she believes that the police are too lazy to solve her son's murder. Now, she said she thinks they're lazy and prejudiced. They're from a small town, and to the police, it's just another African American dead. A lot of the evidence was messed up. They actually robbed the apartment where Snoop was killed around 2 p.m. Snoop was pronounced dead around 4:08 a.m. So later that day, they let people go in there and rob it. Nothing was ever done about that, so they could have tampered with the evidence. They didn't protect the scene, and they just didn't put forth effort to find out what happened to her son. That's crazy. And she got a lot of interviews on YouTube saying crooked cops were involved. People was telling her so many different stories, changing up the story of what happened that night, and the court system was treating the case all crazy. But the ballistic evidence did not match the guns presented by Tony Holden and Lil E. So Lil Snupe's murder is still unsolved today. Like I said, Tony Holden was never charged for Lil Snupe's murder, but they gave him 10 years for being a convicted felon with a firearm. And I think Lil E, Snoop's boy, who was there, there's only two people there. It was Tony Holden and Lil E. Lil E did like 2 years or something like that. Another thing Mama Snoop said was about a month after Lil Snoop passed, she received a anonymous email asking her for some of Lil Snoop's music. She said she went down to the police station and showed them the email to track down the IP address, but the police never followed up. There's just a lot of strange and weird things about this case that's confusing and kind of frustrating. I know Mama Snoop probably frustrated through all this stuff, man. After his death, Meek Mill did dedicate his second solo album, Dreams Worth More Than Money, to Snoop, releasing it on June 29th, 2015, 2 years later on the day of Lil Snoop's funeral. He also had a song dedicated to him called Little Nigga Snoop. And I think T.I. also got his portrait. He got Lil Snoop portrait up in this trap museum in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think they're supposed to be doing a documentary coming out on Netflix about Lil Snoop's life and really explain what really happened. Like I said earlier, man, I know his mom did a lot of interviews about his death. Y'all can check it out on YouTube and support her, man, and everything she's doing because she keeping his name alive. I know she was also doing something like Little Snoop Sundays in his hometown. She also started like a foundation, Lil Snoop Foundation. And Lil Snoop, man, he deserves a book and a movie too about his life also. Y'all make sure y'all check out his music, especially his freestyles, all on social media. And his family did put out that final mixtape of him called RNIC Part 2, Jonesboro, that y'all can download. And it's just sad, man, that no other genre in music has lost more artists than hip-hop. We gotta stop the killing, y'all. I'm praying Mama Snoop gets justice. He was 18 years old. R.I.P. Little Snoop.